Good morning. Couple thoughts, because they're so good. God is so good. My thoughts aren't anything, they're just what God already revealed. So, look in a couple places that I thought were very cool in my reading today. If you hear background noise, that's my dishwasher. Second Kings. Just love this. Three kings got together, and usually I think Israel and Judah didn't always cooperate, but God had a plan. And I think that's kind of the point of all this. God had a plan, and God had the king of Israel, Joram, who was kind of a wicked guy because he came from Ahab. He clung to the sins of Jeroboam still, and Baal. But he went to the king of Israel, we're in 2 Kings chapter 3, and said, the king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you go to fight with me against Moab? And the king of Israel, trying to get his name at that time, I think it starts with a J, a lot of them do, but usually they're just referring to him here as king of Israel, says, I will go with you. I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. So he pretty much gets a blank check, like, I'm totally down with you. And then king of Judah, Joram, says, by what route shall we attack? And then the king of Israel says, through the desert of Edom. So they have to, their plan, and I'm guessing the king of Israel kind of was led by the Spirit in this, which we know even whenever God works his plans. And still looking for that name. That's okay. They went through a desert. So, of course, when you're going through a desert, what's naturally going to happen is you're going to get thirsty. No coincidence. God, again, is using the desert. And we'll see later how he uses the water. So, they get to this desert, and kind of like a remembrance of what Israel did when they were going through the desert. And they said, why did you lead us out of Egypt if you're just going to let us die in the desert? There's always this assumption God's going to let us die in a desert, instead of a thought, hey, maybe God's going to use the desert. So they get into where there was no water for them and their animals. They had marched for 7 days. Obviously, desperation, the fear of, well, just your body saying you're thirsty, has you not thinking always faith-wise. And so even the king of Israel says, what, has the Lord called us three kings together only to hand us over to Moab? So the third king was the king of Edom. They all got together, and they're like, well, looks like it's just all for nothing. You're just going to hand us over to Moab anyway. And I get that. I mean, I feel that sometimes, like, why you take us this far just to leave us now? And that's what Israel felt, and this is what these three kings are thinking, is we don't get it. Why would you just hand us over to Moab? And then Jehoshaphat, who is a prophet with them, says, or no, Jehoshaphat must be the king of Judah. Yeah, and Joram was the king of Israel. Okay, sorry about that. Joram, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. King of Judah says, I hope I'm getting this right. It gets a little confusing with names, but it doesn't matter. Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, says, is there no prophet of the Lord here that we may inquire of the Lord through him? An officer of the king of Israel answered, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to pour water in the hands of Elijah, so he's a pretty big deal. That was my own words. And Jehoshaphat said, the word of the Lord is with him. So his reputation got around. Jehoshaphat again, king of Judah. So the king of Israel, Joram, the king of Judah, Jehoshaphat, and the king of Edom went down to him. So anyway, they do get Elisha to speak and to kind of explain a little bit of what's going on. And first Elisha's like, what do I have to do with you guys? But then it says, well, this is chapter 3, 2 Kings 3, verse 15. While the harpist was playing, the hand of the Lord came upon Elisha, and he said, "This is what the Lord says, make this valley full of ditches, for this is what the Lord says, you will see neither wind nor rain, that this valley will be filled with water." So I think, to me, like, a natural storm is wind and rain. And God is like, I don't need to do it naturally. I'm just going to send you water because I can do that, because I'm going to do that. And you're going to see that it's not just from the normal ways. You're going to see my work. And you, your cattle, and your other animals will drink. I love this verse. Verse 18. This is an easy thing in the eyes of the Lord. He will hand Moab over to you. So remember, Moab is the city that they're fighting against. Edom, Israel, and Judah all together. You will overthrow every fortified city and every major town. You will cut down every good tree, stop up all the springs, and ruin every good field with stones. I think, in other words, it's just saying you're going to have victory. I just love that line. Like, let's remember that line. This is an easy thing in the eyes of the Lord. Sending rain? He's done that before. It's an easy thing. It's nothing. There's nothing too hard for God. So whatever we might pray for or have needs, it's an easy thing. The battle belongs to the Lord. The next morning, about the time for offering the sacrifice, there it was. 2 Kings chapter 3 verse 20. There it was, water flowing from the direction of Edom, and the land was filled with water. A desert that they were in, and they were thirsty. And this relates to be all of a sudden back to what I just read in the Gospel of John chapter 19 about Jesus' side flowing, blood and water flowed from his side. And the point of water, and the point of the blood to justify, to cleanse us from our sin, and the water to give us new life, to invigorate us, to like his spirit, the spirit of water, the spirit of truth, the spirit, he told the woman, you won't thirst anymore. And so now there's all this water overflowing. This is where it too really gets good, as if it isn't good already. This is such a cool story. So remember, they're going to go fight this battle that God says to fight, and that there's nothing hard for God. So you want to fight the battles God tells you to fight, and they get to, this other, remember the other army is Moab. In verse 21, now all the Moabites had heard that the king had come to fight against them. So every man, young and old, who could bear arms was called up and stationed on the border. They're getting ready for this fight that they think it's going to be person to person. When they got up early in the morning, the sun was shining on that water. Remember, it said that the water just filled up the land, and the sun was shining on it. To the Moabites, across the way, the water looked red like blood. That's blood, they said. Those kings must have fought and slaughtered each other. Now to the plunder, Moab. All that glitters is not gold. All that you think things look like aren't necessarily true. In the case, our emotions, our fears, our excitement, even God can change the way things might look. And for them, all this water that to Israel and to Edom and to Judah, well, whatever tribes, whatever armies were there, was like life-giving, was just what they needed, was what God was using to strengthen them and enliven them. To the Moabites, they thought it looked like blood. Their eyes didn't see the same. And faith, too, with God's help, with the Spirit, things won't look the same to God's people, or look the same to people from the outside without God's Spirit. They just have a different view that, thanks to God, it's all God's gift that we can see things for reality and that we're not deceived. And so they thought it looked like blood. They're going to rush in because they already fought these other armies their enemies maybe anyway. They fought each other. There's blood all over. But when the Moabites came, verse 24, to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and fought them until they fled. The Israelites invaded the land and slaughtered the Moabites. They destroyed the towns, and each man threw a stone on every good field until it was covered. They stopped up all the springs and cut down every good tree. Only Kir-Hareseth was left with its stones in place, but men armed with slings surrounded it and attacked it as well. Turn the other way really quick. And it was a decisive battle. And it was like God killed two birds with one stone. He was using the water to feed the Israelites, but he also used the water to defeat the enemies. How could God see that? How could God know that? And that's just what I feel is giving me hope through all that's happened and changes right now. God is going to use everything for his purposes and plans. Every situation, every ruling, every germ, to us it might seem like defeat. To God it says, I'm going to use this. I have a plan. So believe that, be encouraged by that today. To remember that verse, and let's look at it, 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 18. This is an easy thing in the eyes of the Lord. I love it. God's got you. Have a great day.